Somewhere on the planet, bulldozers are already carving out land for what could become the busiest airport on Earth. You'd probably expect it to be in Dubai, London, or Atlanta. Instead, it's being built in Ethiopia, and the numbers behind it are hard to wrap your head around. Today, Africa's busiest airports handle around 20 to 30 million passengers a year. That's already enough to rank among the world's major airports. But Ethiopia's new Bishoftu International is aiming for something on an entirely different scale. 110 million travelers every year. That's more than Heathrow, Dubai International, or even Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, currently the busiest airport on Earth. If the plans hold, this single airport could process more passengers than any airport in history. And the price tag behind that ambition sits at $12.5 billion. That kind of investment doesn't happen by accident. Africa is quietly becoming one of the fastest-growing aviation markets on Earth. And over the next 2 decades, it's expected to add hundreds of millions of new air travelers. Africa isn't building airports like this for today's demand. It's building them for what's coming next. Over the next 2 decades, Africa is expected to become one of the fastest-growing aviation markets on Earth, adding hundreds of millions of new air travelers. Airlines are already increasing flights across the continent at a pace that far outstrips most other regions, and many experts believe this is only the beginning. Much of that momentum traces back to Agenda 2063, a 50-year continental plan to modernize infrastructure and make travel between African nations easier. Several countries have already scrapped visa requirements for fellow Africans entirely. But there's a catch. Only 19% of routes between African cities currently offer a direct flight. Unlike North America, Europe, Asia, or South America, the continent still doesn't have one dominant hub tying everything together. Every other continent already has its giant. Africa doesn't. Not yet. Ethiopia's current gateway, Addis Ababa Bole International, already handles more than 20 million passengers a year, putting it in the same league as airports like Budapest or Tampa. By most measures, it's a solid, well-functioning airport. The problem is, it's about to hit its ceiling. Like Heathrow, Mumbai, or Sydney, Bole is boxed in by the city that grew up around it, with nowhere left to expand without tearing through dense neighborhoods. So Ethiopia looked elsewhere, about 22 miles away, to a quieter stretch of land near the town of Bishoftu. Close enough to serve the capital, but far enough away to start with a completely blank canvas, something Addis Ababa could never offer. Ethiopian Airlines has already committed roughly $4.5 billion toward the project, with another $8 billion still under negotiation, reportedly drawing interest from both the United States and China. That ambition isn't coming out of nowhere. Ethiopian Airlines is already Africa's largest airline by fleet size, destinations, and passenger traffic. Its network reaches more cities across the continent than almost any competitor, giving Ethiopia a significant head start in the race to become Africa's primary connecting hub. But the ambition here reaches well beyond runways and check-in counters. Ethiopia is landlocked, so cargo matters just as much as passengers. Bishoftu is designed to process 4 million tons of freight every year, enough to place it among the 5 busiest cargo hubs anywhere in the world. Handling that scale of people and cargo takes far more than a terminal building. Architecture firm ZHA has designed an entire airport city around the hub with hotels, offices, shopping districts, and dedicated cargo facilities, all built to keep people, goods, and business flowing. It's a model more of the world's biggest airports are embracing, treating the terminal as just one part of a much larger economic engine. Groundbreaking began in January 2026, and crews are already leveling a site covering roughly 13.5 square miles, nearly 3 times the footprint of Heathrow and considerably larger than JFK. The first phase, covering the passenger terminal, runways, cargo facilities, and new road connections, is scheduled to open by 2030, ready to handle 60 million travelers a year. And that first terminal alone will be enormous. For comparison, New Manila International's much-discussed single terminal covers about 350,000 square meters, roughly the size of 65 football fields. Bishoftu's terminal is expected to be nearly twice that size. Every part of its design draws inspiration from Ethiopia's own landscape. The terminal buildings and piers connect through a central spine inspired by the Great Rift Valley, the same geological feature that cuts through the country near Bishoftu itself. That spine isn't just symbolic, it's functional, designed to reduce the walking distance between gates. That matters more than it might sound, because roughly 80% of passengers arriving at Bishoftu are never actually expected to leave the airport. They'll simply transfer to another flight and continue their journey, exactly the kind of connecting traffic Ethiopia is trying to attract. Here's something that seems backwards at first. Bishoftu sits at an elevation of about 6,230 feet, roughly 1,300 feet lower than Addis Ababa. At first glance, that might not sound like a big difference, but for an airport designed to connect Africa with the rest of the world, it can make a measurable impact. You might assume lower elevation is a disadvantage, since it usually means longer runways are needed for takeoff and landing. It actually works the other way around. The higher an airport sits, the thinner the air becomes. And thinner air makes life harder for airplanes. Jet engines rely on dense air to generate thrust. Wings rely on that same dense air to create lift. As air becomes thinner, engines produce less power, wings generate less lift, and aircraft need more runway to get airborne. By building at a lower elevation, Bishoftu gives every departing aircraft a performance advantage from the moment its wheels leave the ground. Ethiopian Airlines says that means its aircraft can fly more efficiently, burn less fuel, and potentially operate longer non-stop routes. It's a small geographical advantage, but one that could matter every single day if Bishoftu is going to compete with global hubs like Dubai and Istanbul. No mega project of this scale arrives without a cost. At Bishoftu, that cost is being paid by around 15,000 displaced residents, many of them farming families who have worked this land for generations. Ethiopian Airlines says new housing has already been built and handed over to affected families. Local reporting paints a more complicated picture. Some residents say compensation covered their parents' generation, but left younger family members with little support of their own, creating uncertainty about their future livelihoods. The airline's leadership maintains that displaced families have already moved into their new homes. Beyond the human toll, there's another question hanging over the project: money. Ethiopia doesn't have the financial resources of a Gulf state, and roughly $8 billion of the project's funding still hasn't been finalized. That's a significant gap for an airport that's already under construction. Even if Bishoftu opens exactly as planned, it won't be competing in an empty field. Egypt is working to double Cairo International's capacity to 60 million passengers, while Dubai, Istanbul, and Heathrow continue investing billions to stay ahead. But Ethiopia is betting on more than just size. The African Continental Free Trade Area, an agreement spanning more than 50 countries, is steadily reducing trade barriers and making it easier for goods and businesses to move across the continent. At the same time, Ethiopian Airlines already operates one of Africa's most extensive route networks, backed by one of the continent's largest cargo operations. Together, they give Bishoftu something many competing airports don't have before opening day, an airline already capable of filling it. Unlike Bole, unlike Cairo, and unlike almost every major hub competing for this title, Bishoftu is being built entirely from scratch. There are no aging terminals to renovate, no crowded runways to work around, no decades of legacy infrastructure limiting what comes next. Whether it ever reaches 110 million passengers a year remains to be seen. If even a fraction of Africa's aviation boom flows through this one airport, it won't just become another major hub. It could become the connection point an entire continent has been missing. Do you think Bishoftu can really become Africa's answer to Dubai and Istanbul? Or is 110 million passengers a year simply too ambitious? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about engineering, mega projects, and the breakthrough technologies shaping our future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.